All right. So I was asking, was there any part of last week class that you are unable to grasp, or maybe that became difficult along the along the line? Maybe during your research, during your personal study, during your during your class, during the class itself. I mean, that you just discover that this you do not understand. Of course, I believe that you really may not understand many things, given that we are not going too deep into the whole uh, stuff. But then you will be able to get a few things. Be able to get a few things. So, is there any part of it that you really want us to touch again, so that we can just quickly do that?
Okay, so for me, sir,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to talk about the last part, which was the one that said explain five security tools in Linux operating system.
Okay,
Uh, I'd say majority had not really used Linux. Of course, I we saw some commands and how to enable it because you on the assignment it was mentioned state the process of activating them. So I'd like to ask how does those command works?
okay. Yeah, last week I was trying to open a Linux environment for us, but I lost my password, in fact, and I have not opened that. I have not opened it since then, because I have another environment I use, another what's it called now? Another virtual machine that I use. So I've not been able to check that. But let me do something now. Let me do something now. Um. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying my effort to show you how it looks like. But yes, even if I can't show you that, I can still show you a brief thing. I mean, a few things on. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. I'll show you. So that, because when we talk about command, are you with me now? When we talk about command line, what we mean is that you should be familiar with how codes work when you're writing a code. That's how it works. Do you understand me now? So you can open, you use a command line. Your Windows also have command line. Let me share my screen very quickly, and you look at the terminal of Windows. So please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, please. Okay, great. All right. So we have Windows also have terminals. Now, as you can see, look at what is on my screen now. This is Windows terminal. This is how terminals look like. This is how Linux operate. Do you understand me now? This is how Linux operate. You write line of codes on it. So, for example, if this had to be this was Linux, or if this is Linux, let's say we want to install Wireshark. For example, you write sudo apt install Wireshark. Now this is Windows terminal. If it were to be Linux terminal, immediately I write sudo apt install Wireshark and I click it, it's going to run, I mean, take a few minutes, and it will install Wireshark immediately. So you can see that this one is not recognized now. Sudo is not recognized on Windows, because Windows does not use sudo. What Windows use is CMD. So what window use is CMD. So the reason why I give you that assignment is so that you will get familiar. Um I want to make your curiosity rise. I want you to be curious that how does Linux work? How does it work? If we cannot open my VirtualBox today, we will install another Linux. I'll make sure I do that. In fact, let's start from there this evening. I believe you can all still see my screen. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, sir.
All right, great. Now I'm trying to install another another virtual machine on my VirtualBox. I taught you last week what VirtualBox represent and how virtual machine work. Another computer on your computer. So I'm trying to install let's say another Ubuntu. Then you come here, ISO. This ISO you must have gotten it on your system. You pick it, it will automatically detect. Can you see now? This type, I don't know if you are seeing my screen, but this type is saying Linux. Linux. Then we click next. Then we set our password. Let's just use example. No, we can't use example. A good password now. X, but we are going to forget. So let's say X124 at MP 51291298. Now, before I proceed, you can all see my screen. Is this a good password? I need a response. Just unmute your mic and speak.
Yes, this is a good password,
Can
provided
you
that the user will not forget it.
let me see. Sorry, who is speaking? Who just spoke now?
Oluwaseun Samuel. Oluwaseun Samuel.
Okay, yeah. So you said this is a good password, right?
Password, provided that the user will not forget it
Okay, well, the forgetting part is left to the user to save the password or to keep this password
somewhere.
secure. You understand?
Yes.
So, okay. Since you said it's a good password, does anybody have any contrary opinion? This particular password, does it meet the five password policy I gave in the last class? Yes, I need a response, please. I need a response.
Yes, it does.
Okay, you said it does. Does everybody agree with that, or is there anybody with a
Yes.
contrary opinion?
Yes, I agree with that, sir.
It does, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All of you that agreed to it, you really must have forgotten our policies. This password you are looking at is not totally complete because it does not contain a capital
What?
letter.
Oh.
It doesn't contain any capital letter. So as good as this password would have been, it doesn't contain any capital letter. So to make it a complete password, I'll change this MP to capital M small p, then small e capital X. Now this is a balanced password now. So let's save this in a note. Let's open a note um, so that we won't forget another Ubuntu. Another Ubuntu. Okay. Let's save on our desktop. I mean, I'm doing all this because it's a class. On a good day, I won't do that. Pass. Okay. So we have our password saved, so we won't forget. You just copy this and you paste here. All right. Then here you come here. You have your host name already. Nothing to change. Guest addition. You can pick that later, but because of this class, we just rush things. What I'm doing now is I'm currently installing another computer on my computer, a virtual machine now. And this is why, as a cybersecurity professional, you must use a strong computer. There is a specification for the kind of computer you can use. You cannot use a 4 gig RAM computer. You just be a joker. Because presently now you can see what is on my screen. The computer I am installing on my computer, the virtual machine, is requesting for RAM. And that RAM will be taken out of the original RAM of my system. So if I'm using 4 gig RAM and my system is already using 2 gig, and I give virtual machine 2 gig, it means that there is no other RAM again. And you can see that there is a green line and a red line. So this green line is the only line you can apportion. It's the only part of the RAM you can give out. So I can still allocate up to 11 gig. I can still allocate up to 11 gig to this virtual machine, but I don't need 11 gig. So 2 gig is enough just for this class. Then CPU. Your system you cannot be using a system with just 2 CPU or just one. So those of you that are using computer system that have returned to factory, you know that you have a lot of work to do. So it must be a standard and upgraded system. So currently now I have 4 CPU on my system. I have used 2. Because my computer is using one. Then the other virtual machine, the other virtual machine that I'm unable to open is using one. So this one too, I will allocate one to it. One is enough. Then you click next. Then here you allocate the hard disk, but note that it's going to be a virtual hard disk. It's not an hard disk that is going to be taken out of your computer system. No, it's a virtual hard disk. So everything being saved is not on your computer. It's on the virtual storage of the provider of this virtual box. So we are allocating 25 gig to it. We can pre-allocate full size. Then you next. So you go through the details of your specification. It's just like a new computer now. When you are good, you click on finish. So we are already installing. It's just like when you buy a new system, they'll tell you they want to load it for you. That they want to put an operating system on it. That's what we are doing. We are putting an operating system on this new computer. But because it's a virtual computer now, so we are already creating that. And while that is creating, take note that when you are loading a computer, maybe with Windows or any other operating system, there is always a clause that till the loading will be completed, your system must not power off. Because if your system powers up during that period, that system is most likely going to crash. The BIOS is most likely going to get issue. So you make sure that your system is powered before you begin to load it. Do you understand now? All right, so we're already creating it. It's already loading. And before you can start using the virtual machine on your computer, you must make sure that your computer's virtualization is enabled. Your computer's virtualization is enabled. Now, Ubuntu is already installing. So how do you know your virtualization is enabled? You go to your task manager, then you scroll down to I mean, you switch to performance, then you scroll down here. You are going to see virtualization here. You see virtualization and you see enabled. If it is not enabled, I can put you through the process, but that will not be in this class. I can put you through the process by which you will enable it. Do you understand? So here you'll be able to see how your computer is actually functioning. Do you understand now? You see how your computer is functioning, the speed, the the processes, everything that is happening, the number of stores that is being run on the computer. All right. So let's go back to our Ubuntu. Our Ubuntu is still loading. So while our Ubuntu is actually loading, I want to show us a secure architecture, a secure network architecture. Okay. Now, looking at this architecture now, now what does I taught you DMZ? What does DMZ represent? But better still, for this class, we may quickly just look at this because of our time. I mean, this is not a network class again, so I won't want this to delay us. Yeah, network architecture. Now you can see this. So if you so we'll quickly run through this while our Ubuntu is still running. Let it run. Okay, so while our Ubuntu is still are we still together, please? All right. So while our Ubuntu is still running, let's quickly read through this. Now, with the introduction of VLAN, I have taught you LAN last week. There is a shift in network architecture designed to include security as a key consideration. We have security, optimization, and redundancy. Should all be considered when designing a network, ideally without compromising one component. This brings us to the question, how do we properly implement VLAN as a security boundary? Security zones. Now, security zones define what or who is is in a VLAN and how traffic can travel in and out. Depending on whom you speak to, every network architect may have a different approach or opinion to the language or requirements surrounding security zone. So you will remember that those of you that came early, I was mentioning something that the assignment you are given, you are not expected to have the same thing. I mean, if your own design may be different from my own design. Everybody's design will be very, very different. But the goal is that you are able to give us an architecture where your network is secure. So either you draw a simple architecture where you just have your network, another network, you have all your network components, your router, your switch, and you have the other network, the devices and the components too. You have them, and you now put a firewall in between the two. If that's all you design, that's your own definition of security. Do you understand now? So that's your definition of security. So you are not going to be marked down. And for those that decide that okay, their own secure definition of security is to have firewall, to have IDS, to have IPS, to have the DMZ and everything put in place, they will also be given their grade. So this says that network architecture is dependent most likely on the network architect or the network engineer, because there are organizations where the same person that is drawing the plan is the one that is doing the engineering. You understand? So whichever way, whichever one you want to use, just make sure that you are keeping your network secured. Do you understand now? Like for example, now one of the teams, this is the assignment. Look at this network architecture now. This is a very good one. A very, very good one. So if you want to connect to external server from your network, you have to use the VPN to so that you will be secure both in data and both as sender. So you will be in a tunnel and still be encrypted. Our topic today is actually around encryption, and I will show you how encryption works. Do you understand now? So let's quickly, I mean, I will not be able to go over the network whole thing again because of our time. We have a whole lot of things we want to do. But if after the class you still have things you want me to explain, you can reach out in the group, please. You can reach out in the group because personal message I may not really reply like that. But if you reach out in the group, anytime I check the group, I'll see your question. So we are waiting for our virtual box to actually come up. I mean, it's taking a lot of time. All right. So if our virtual box is not coming up early, we may have to proceed with today's class, and I will relaunch it. But while we wait for that, so let's go over our class for today. So with that, we'll be able to achieve something before moving forward. All right. So let's see. I'll be sharing my screen now, and I know you all have seen. Most of you have already seen the icebreaker for today, which is where we are going to start from. So our icebreaker for today, yes. So our icebreaker for today says, the more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I? Yes, Adebajo Remain Lekun, you can go ahead and speak.
Hi, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, you are welcome.
The answer for the icebreaker, the more you take, the more you leave behind. I think is full step.
Footstep, okay. All right, do we have other any other opinion or any other addition from any other person? Okay, I think somebody is agreeing to that. All right. So we are going to look at, let's reveal our answer since that is what everybody agrees on. I want to believe. Okay, yes. So the answer is footsteps. The answer is footsteps. The more you take, the more you leave behind. You know, as you take a step, you leave more behind. You leave more behind. All right. So, and that will take us to our today's class, data protection. Data protection. Now, this is one major and core part of cybersecurity because most times what we deal with in the digital space is data. Are we together now? Most times what you deal with is what? Is data. So you must see to it that your data is appropriately protected. Is appropriately protected. So what does data protection? What is data protection? What does it mean to you? I know I have a definition on the screen, but I want you to speak. What does it mean to you? Data protection. Yes, I can see your hands up. Okay, Ramilekun, please go ahead.
All right. Just a little explanation on what I understand by data protection is by maybe um, someone securing your information, your the things that are personal to you, something like your things, what belongs to you, like securing it, guiding it, giving it a protection, rather, like that. So.
Okay, yes, we have another person that want to speak. We have Philip. Is it Philip? Yes. Philip, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. You're welcome.
Okay, sir. The little thing I consider about the data protection is just be like the way how we can safeguard our confidential data away from unauthorized access. For us not to to disclose our data.
Okay. All right. That's
Yeah.
another trial. Any other person? We have Oluwaseun, please. Oluwaseun, you can go ahead. Oluwaseun, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you, please. Okay, Oluwafemi, please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. You are welcome.
Yeah, data protection is like a strategy, like a way of securing privacy, availability, and integrity of data. Like it's the process of protecting sensitive information from damage or
Okay.
corruption, sir.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean,
Yes.
you actually mentioned a particular point that is very, very important. Data protection has to do with how we secure data from unauthorized access, alteration, or damage. Unauthorized access, alteration, or damage. Now, the reason why these three are important is that these three covers the CIA triad. So when you protect your data from unauthorized access, you secure confidentiality. When you protect it from alteration, you secure integrity. And when you protect it from damage, you secure availability. And I hope, okay, so let's have this trivia very quickly. CIA triad is the foundation of cybersecurity. What is the opposite of CIA triad? What is the opposite of CIA triad? If you have been following our social media and you must have seen this trivia on it. Yes, who want to try? CIA is the foundation of cybersecurity. What is the opposite of CIA triad? Yes, anybody? Yes, Adekunle Philip, you can go ahead. If you are
Can you,
speaking,
hello, sir?
okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
The opposite, CIA is always, it means that the confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Okay.
But the opposite is supposed to be like destruction, alteration, and disclosure.
Destruction
Destruction, alteration, and disclosure.
and disclosure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Do we all agree to that? Or somebody else want to try? I can see somebody's hand up. We have Oluwanishola. Yes, Oluwanishola, you can speak.
Destruction, alteration, and disclosure.
Oluwanishola, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you, please. All right, so let's have another person. Adebajo Remilekun, please, can you speak?
All right, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Okay, sir. I think the
We cannot hear you again, Remilekun. So
me now,
we
sir.
oh, okay, you are back. Yes, you can continue to speak now.
All right, sir. I said the opposite is ADA triad, which will be anonymity, disclosure, and accessibility, sir.
ADA triad, anonymity, disclosure, and accessibility. Okay. Someone has given us another thing. All right. We have Rebecca, please. You can go ahead.
Disclosure, alteration, and destruction, sir.
Disclosure, alteration, and destruction. Yes, let's have one more person. Let's see. We have Oluwaseun, please. You can go ahead. Yes, Oluwaseun, please. If you are speaking, your mic is muted. All right. I guess his hand was up by mistake. So the right answer is actually D-A-D. D-A-D. And that comes from somebody gave us that. Who gave us that? Who was that person that spoke last? That should be Rebecca. So, Rebecca, please, can you repeat yourself so that everybody can hear you? Rebecca, are we together? All right. So I guess we are not together. So okay, yeah, Adekunle Philip, you also spoke about it. Yes, you also spoke about it. When when data is not confidential, then it has been disclosed. When data is not confidential, it has been disclosed. That's disclosure. When data does not have integrity, it has been altered. That's alteration. And the last one, when data is not available, it has been destroyed, or it can be denial. So it can be denial or destruction. So the opposite of CIA triad is DAD triad. Please know that, because DAD triad is the foundation of every cyber threat. CIA triad is the foundation of cybersecurity. So you must know the two. All right, thank you. So moving forward, data protection involves securing data from unauthorized access and alterations, and also destruction. So it means that the things you put in place for data to be protected, the things you put in place for data to be secured, the things you put in place to make sure that your data is not breached, is not accessed by unauthorized users, and is not altered or destroyed. That is what data protection is all about. Then moving forward, the importance of data protection, protecting data and help to maintain privacy and prevent data breaches. Do you understand now? So when your data is adequately protected, you will be able to maintain privacy. You'll be able to prevent data breach. So confidentiality, integrity, and availability will be secured. So for data to be protected is for CIA triad to be maintained. So as long as the CIA triad is secured jealously, data protection will be in place. And that's the primary importance of data protection, to maintain privacy and prevent data breaches. All right. One of the major ways of protecting data is encryption. One of the major ways of protecting data is encryption. So by definition, encryption is a method of converting data into a code to prevent unauthorized access. So what encryption is, I explained briefly about encryption last week. What encryption is converting a plain text. A plain text is something that is readable to everybody, something that you can read, something that you can understand. Now, converting that plain text to a cipher text, we call it cipher text. That is an encoded form of the what? Of the plain text. So when you convert a plain text to a cipher text, that is what we call encoding. But now when you do it with key, don't forget, when you convert from plain text to cipher text, that is what we call encoding. But when you now do that conversion with key, that is encryption. Because when you can just encode without keys. For example, now you can just take, okay, A will represent 1. Like I gave you an example last week. A will represent 1, B represent 2, C represent 3, and D represent 4. So it means that if I write 3, 1, 4, for somebody that if you have that the knowledge of that conversion, if you have the algorithm, are you with me now? If you have the algorithm, you'll be able to convert it back. You don't need any key. You just need to know the algorithm. So, for example, you can convert when you were in secondary school. They must have taught you converting to base 4, to base 10, converting to base 2, converting to base 8, to base 16. We have base 64, which is a very common base in cybersecurity. I'm going to practicalize conversion to base 64 today. So you are going to see how you can encode. So I can send you a document and tell you that it has been converted to base 64. Or we can just agree as a class that every of our assignment henceforth will be in base 64. And when I send that thing to you, when I send a document to you, I will not need to tell you again that it's in base 64, because we already agreed on that. So anybody that is not in the class will not be able to understand what we are saying, and will not be able to decipher what is the content of that document. Are we together now? So encryption, on the other hand, has to now do with encoding with key. You encode with key. You don't just use any simple algorithm, because you can just encode and anybody can. There are tools. There are a whole lot of tools that can be used to decode. A whole lot of tools, as long as it's not used with key. But when you encrypt with key, a key will be needed to decrypt. encryption is converting into a code, while decryption is converting back into a plain text. Take note of that. Encryption is converting to a code, while decryption is to convert it back to the plain text. All right, let's run through the theoretical part before we go to the practical. So we have two types of encryption, two major types of encryption. We have the symmetric encryption, the symmetric encryption, the symmetric encryption. Then we also have the asymmetric encryption. So we have the symmetric encryption. The symmetric encryption uses a single key, a single key, a single key. So meaning that the key that opens is the same key that must close. That is symmetric encryption. Meaning that what you use to encrypt is what you are going to use to decrypt. So, for example, it's just like the door to your house. I don't know how many of you remember one key that used to, I can't remember the name of that key very well. Is it Toxas? They call that key, maybe Toxas. If that key gets lost, you are going to see hell that day. Because to open with another key will not be possible. To break it will be very difficult. That key that used to have mouth like that of a saw. I don't know how many of you can remember it. It's a very terrible key. So symmetric encryption is a kind of encryption where only one key is used. So the same key that you use to encrypt is the same key you will use to decrypt. And this points to the fact that if you are going to be using the same key that encrypts to decrypt, then it means that you will need to send that key to the recipient. And that's where key management comes in. Another broad topic entirely on its own. So if you are sending a key, a file from point A and you have encrypted that file, you are sending a file from point A to point B and you have encrypted that file using symmetric encryption. As you are sending the file, you must be sending the key. Because except the recipient, the receiver will be using other tools to break the encryption. It will need the key. That is symmetric. And under symmetric encryption, we have various kinds. We have the AES, we have the DES. You can research more about that. In fact, one of your assignments is going to come out from there for this week. So your symmetric encryption has to do with encrypting a particular file or data using one key and using that same key to decrypt it. That is symmetric. Now let's look at asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption has to do with, oh, somebody gave us the name for that key. Tokos is a very terrible key. Asymmetric encryption uses a pair of key. Now, when you hear a pair of key, that is two keys. Two keys. Now, a pair means two. So when you hear a pair of key, it means two keys. Now, asymmetric encryption uses two keys or a pair of key, a public key and a private key. A public key and a private key. And in asymmetric encryption, you encrypt with public key. Are we together? You encrypt with public key, and the receiver will decrypt with what? With private key. So this one is more secured. You know why? Because you will not need to send any key. The private key is already with the receiver. Are we together now? The private key is already with the receiver. So when you encrypt at your end, you don't need to send the key. The receiver already has the private key. So the receiver just get the key and just get the file and decrypt it with the corresponding private key. Now, take note of that word, corresponding private key. So it means that both public and private key must be generated at the same time, the same algorithm. So somebody will have the public key, somebody will have the private key. So you will encrypt with the public key, then you will decrypt with what? With the private key. That is asymmetric encryption. If time will permit, we are going to see it practically today too. So you are going to use corresponding pair of key, meaning that the public key that you are using to encrypt, the corresponding private key, because when you are generating the key for this kind of encryption, the keys will come in two. Are you with me now? The keys will come in two. So the corresponding private key of the public key that encrypted the file is the one you can use to decrypt it. And you don't need to send the key around. The receiver already has the key. The receiver already has the key. So when you encrypt, the receiver will do what? Will decrypt. So if A is sending a file or sending a data to B, B has a private key. So A will encrypt that file with the public key of B. Let's draw out. Let's quickly, let me display the whiteboard and let's see if you can draw something. But please, immediately I'm drawing with using the whiteboard, please deactivate it from your end. You just click hide because it used to disrupt our class. So let me show the whiteboard. You can all view your whiteboard now. Yeah. So let's say you have a key here. Sorry, I don't know how to draw. So just accept it the way it is. Okay, we have a key here. This is A. This is from point A. So we mark this as point A. Then we have the file that is being sent. We put in data. That's our file. Then we have B here. And then we draw our key. All right. Now you see, if A want to send this particular data, this DAT, if A want to send it to B, A will use the public key of B. You know, B has two keys. A also has two keys. Take note of that. B has two keys. A also has two keys. But anybody that wants to send a file to B, that is why it is called a public key, meaning that it is available, it is accessible to everybody. So A can have the key, C can have the key, D can have the key, F can have the key. Everybody can have that key. It's a public key. But the private key is with B. So anybody that wants to send anything to B will use the public key of B to encrypt that thing. Are you following me? Anybody that wants to send anything to B will use the public key of B to, you know, B has the private key with him or with her or with it. B has the private key, but the public key of B will be available. It will have given it to everybody. It's a public key. So anybody that wants to send any file to B will need to use the public key of B to send that file, so that when it gets to B, only B can decrypt that file. Because the public key has been used to encrypt it. So only the person that has the private key can decrypt it. And because uh only B has the private key. Are we together now? Because only B has the private key, that's it. So it's the only one that can decrypt it. Are we together now? It's the only one that can decrypt it. So for A or anybody to send any file encrypted to B and they want B to decrypt it, then they must use the public key of B. All right. So moving forward, you can now hide your whiteboard. So moving forward, we have encryption keys. So what I've been mentioning, key. What are encryption keys? The security of encryption relies heavily on the strength and secrecy of the encryption keys. So you know that just like your door, the door to your house, no matter how secure your house is, if anybody has a key to your house, the person can actually touch, or I mean can actually open the house or open the door. So the security of your house is dependent on the strength and secrecy of the lock or the key. So same thing applicable to encryption. The security of encryption relies on the strength and secrecy of the encryption key. Are we together now? All right. Then we have the public key infrastructure. Now, the PKI manages key. You know, I told you that we have key management. So the public key infrastructure manages keys and certificates to enable secure communication over network. So the way we keep our keys protected, the way you are protecting data, you also keep your key protected. So you keep it secure. So the way you keep it secure, there is an infrastructure that manages that, and that is what we call PKI, and that's public key infrastructure. You know why? Because public key is a key that is public, so you need to manage it so that everybody will not just have access to it. Despite the fact that it is public, it must be properly managed. It must be properly managed, and it also manages. It doesn't only manage keys. It also manage certificates. We have digital certificates. We have digital signature. So just like you have identity card in the physical now, you have identity card. In the digital space, you also have digital certificate. And everything you can find on any of your identity card is what you will be able to find on your digital certificate. So let's move forward. Okay. So the use cases for encryption is used to secure communications, digital signature, and file protection. Meaning that how do we use encryption? Encryption can be used in many ways. And one of those many ways is that when you want to send a secure file, you want to protect your file, protect your data, have a secure communication with someone, you use encryption. Just like you use code language. Just like you use code language to communicate with people when you don't want others to hear. That is the same way you use encryption. That is the use case for encryption. All right. So, what is digital signature? Digital signature is used to verify the authenticity of a document or message, because on the internet, you have various documents that you send around on the internet. So your digital signature is just like your physical signature too, so that anybody that sees that signature, they can verify that that document is coming or is coming from you. So digital signature is what you use to verify the authenticity of a document or message in the digital space. Are we together now? All right. Now I'm not going deep into all these things because these are the things you will need to learn in the extensive class. In a foundational class like this, we just introduce you to them, we give you definition and all. All right. Then we have hash functions. You know, I was talking in I think last class or last two classes, I was saying there is a difference between hashing and encryption. Now, encoding, encryption, and hashing, they are three different things. Encoding is converting to ciphertext without a key. Encryption is converting to ciphertext with a key and can be reversible. It is reversible. I mean, it means it can be decrypted. But you see, hashing is not reversible. Once you convert it to a fixed size string, you cannot reverse it. And most time, hashing is used for data integrity check. What does that mean? Hashing is used so that data is not altered. Because if there is a slight change in that data, the hash value, we call something hash value, that is the string, the hash value will change. The hash value will change. So you remember last class, I was showing you password when we were trying to look at how to crack password. Remember that it was the hash value that they were trying to compare before they got the password. So that hash value you are looking at represent a particular data, another hash value. So every data converted to hash value cannot be reversed. So it means that if you are trying to verify that data, if it has been tampered with or not, just check the hash value. The hash value will not correspond. So if I send a data to you and maybe what is in that data is, I will see you tomorrow, full stop. Did you see that? I will see you tomorrow, full stop. And I convert it to hash. I hash it. I convert it to a string. If anybody pick that data and I now send, I will see you tomorrow without the full stop, the hash value will change. So it will not correspond, it will not match. And as long as the hash does not match, integrity has been broken. Integrity has been broken. So hash function is usually used to check for data integrity. All right. Then we see file encryption, just like the normal encryption, how you encrypt your data, you can encrypt your file. So I can send you a document that is encrypted, and you will need the key to decrypt it. You won't be able to read it. You won't be able to read it. Are we together now? All right. So encryption in cloud storage. Well, encryption is widely used to secure data stored on cloud services. So many of your cloud service provider, they use encryption. Most of them, they use encryption to keep data secure, to keep your information secure, so that external individuals or external users will not have access to it. So encryption is a phenomenon, or is a terminology, or is a concept that is very, very important in cyber security, because without it, we most likely are going to be sending data porously, meaning that everybody will be able to have access to our data. But when your data is encrypted, you are at least to a bit, to a level, you are rest assured that an external person that does not have the key cannot have access to it, even though, take note, I used to say that there is nobody that cannot be breached. The way you are advancing as cybersecurity professional, the threat actors are also advancing. Are we together? Threat actors are also advancing. So, for example, now, this encryption we are talking about, as secure as it is, there is a concept that can actually break every encryption now, and it is called quantum computing. That every of the traditional encryption method that you may know that currently exist, quantum computing can breach it. And that is why we now have another level of encryption now that is called post-quantum encryption. Can you see the advancement now? So we have post-quantum encryption and we have encryption. So all these encryption method, that maybe the AES, the DES, the PGP, various kind of encryption that we have, they can be breached using quantum computing. But as much as these threat actors now understand that these things can be breached using quantum computing, cybersecurity professionals have also advanced. So we have post-quantum encryption, meaning that the kind of quantum that is immune to the attack that is being launched using quantum computing. Quantum computing is not created for breaching or for attack. No, attackers just take advantage of it because it can do a lot. You can read about quantum computing, it can do a lot. All right, thank you. So let's see case study, a data breach example, discussing a data breach where lack of encryption led to data compromise. So we are going to have this case study as an assignment. Don't worry, assignment this week will not be too difficult, because somebody said the last week assignment is a bit difficult, but it's going to get more difficult. Don't let me deceive you, because this week now we are talking of encryption and decryption. I can give you a practical work on encryption. All right. So we are going to look at how to practicing encryption and decryption today. So in the next one hour, we still have about 50 something minutes in our class. We'll be doing practical example of encrypting and decrypting. Then why is encryption essential for data protection in today's digital world? Yes. Why is encryption essential for data protection in today's digital world? Yes, anybody, please. All right. Yes, Salawi Shegun, you can speak.
Thank you, sir. From what I've learned so far, just to prevent unauthorized access to data.
Okay, great, great. To prevent unauthorized access to data, unauthorized access to data. All right. Do we have any other person, please? Any other person? All right. So, encryption, as we have explained, is very, very important to ensure that. Okay, Adekunle feel you want to talk. Yes, you can speak, please. Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Um, Pertaining to what you have been discussing for us since that about concerning the execution, we all know that execution is a critical component that of a data protection in today's digital world. And with the execution that the concerning the execution, why execution is essential, we have to talk about the confidentiality and the privacy, and the security and the risk management, the compliance and the regulatory requirements, and we have to talk about the benefit as well. We want to talk about the essential.
Okay,
Am
great.
I on point, sir?
Yeah, you're on point. You're on point. You're on point. You're totally on point. So you see, it's very, very important for us to know that because encryption is a core part of cybersecurity if your data are going to be secure. Like I have some guys I'm teaching on a 3 month training, and I wanted to give them the file. I taught them encryption. I taught them how to encrypt and decrypt. I gave them my public key. I mean, and I wanted to I collected their public key, I asked them to create public keys. So I gave them not assignment now, their handout, encrypted handout, and I asked them to decrypt it. And if they cannot decrypt it, that's the handout they are going to be using for the class. You see? So that way, it means that any other person cannot have access to that handout and be able to breach it. Any other person. You understand? So these are the ways these things work. They help us to keep our data protected. They help us to keep our data protected. So encryption versus hashing, like I have explained, encryption is reversible, while hashing is a one-way process used for data verification. All right. So we have the common encryption algorithm. Common encryption because algorithm is what is algorithm? Yes, anybody, please. What do you understand by algorithm? Yes, anybody want to try? Algorithm. What is algorithm? Yes, Ajayi Gideon, you can speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. Algorithm to a layman is just a step-by-step process of solving a problem.
Yeah, to a layman and to a computer science student, because that's a computer definition of algorithm. Yes, Oluwaseun, you can speak, please. Oluwaseun, your hand is up. Please, I don't know. You can speak.
Okay, sir. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. What I understand by algorithm is a kind of set of rules to follow in providing a kind information or data on a
Okay,
on a system.
okay, okay,
If you
that's
understand,
correct.
sir.
Algorithm is a
Yeah.
step-by-step approach for an action. It's a step-by-step approach for an action. So now, algorithm in encryption has to do with what are the methodology? What is the methodology behind the key creation and how that particular encryption works? So there are various kind of algorithm in various kind of algorithm that we can use to encrypt file. We have the AES, the RSA, the DES. We have the triple DES, which is very secured. Then we have the PGP. We are going to be using the PGP as example today. We'll be using the PGP as example today. So this algorithm, their functionality varies. The way they function, they have advantages and they have disadvantages. So they are just like the framework, the principles that guide how file is being encrypted. So moving forward, this is our question for today. What is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption? Symmetric and asymmetric encryption. Yes, Salah Shagun, you can speak.
So, okay, thank you, sir. As you explained, symmetric encryption uses a simple key. That is, same key is used to encrypt and to decrypt, while the asymmetric key uses a pair of key, that is two keys. One, the private key for the encryption and the private and sorry, the public key for the encryption and the private key for the decryption. And you said that public the private key to be used to decrypt must be a corresponding private key to the public key.
Okay, that's correct. That's totally
Thank you,
correct.
sir.
You've really been paying attention to you've been paying attention to the class. That's really, really brilliant. And maybe you're going to have few marks for that. All right. So do you have any other body that want to speak? All right, so Adekunle Philip, you can speak. Adekunle Philip, please, you can speak. I don't know, your mic is still
Okay,
muted.
sir. Pertaining to the symmetric, according to what you taught us, symmetric execution had the same key for had the same key for execution and the discretion, and it is faster and more efficient. And the example of the symmetric, you said that AES, that is Advanced Execution Standard, DES, Data Execution Standard. For the execution, asymmetric execution, it had different key for execution and discretion,
Okay.
and it's more secure for key exchange. And the example for the asymmetric execution is the RSA, that is the reverse shaman admin. What did they call it? I can't remember.
Okay.
And the example is EEC, that is elliptic curve scintigraphic.
Okay. That's brilliant. You have really done a bit of research even while in the class, because I remember I did not give you the full meaning of all those algorithms. You have done a bit of research, and that is also noted. That is also noted. All right, so let's pick the second question. Who can give us a use case for encryption? A use case for encryption, where encryption is useful. A use case for encryption. Okay, yes, caller Wale, please, you can speak.
Okay, a use case for encryption. It is used for in securing communication, digital signatures, and file protection, sir.
Oh, thank you. That's great. That's great. All right, let's have one more person. Daramola, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The common use case for the execution, number one is on online banking and financial transaction,
Okay. Okay, yeah.
and
Online
for
banking and
securing
financial.
online shopping,
Yeah, sure, sure. Another person.
and
Yes, we
data
have.
protection in cloud storage.
Yeah, good. We have another person here. I think the person I even called was Daramola. Okay, yes, Oluwaseun, you can go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Now, encryption is mostly used in digital signature, like the my friend said the other time. And another place where it is common now is in blockchain, the
Oh yeah,
cryptocurrency
cryptocurrency.
transactions in
That's
blockchain.
really really brilliant. In fact, in cryptocurrency, uh, cryptocurrency is another career path. Web3 is another career path
Yes,
you can dive into as a security professional.
dive
Web3
into.
security. Yes, Web3 security. I think I did a month of work with WebAC, and I can tell you that there is a whole lot of career you can do, even in the crypto world. Do you understand me now? So yes, in fact, in the crypto world, that is where they use hashing the most, because every transaction must be verified. Every transaction must be verified. They use digital document and all, digital signature and all. So you see all those Bitcoin transaction, crypto transaction that you see, they pass through a lot of verification process before they are authenticated. Do you understand now? So that's a very brilliant one. Very brilliant one. Thank you very much. All right. So our answers, we have the symmetric uses one key, then asymmetric uses a public key and a private key. Of course, if you have paid attention in this class, you must have actually grabbed that. Then file encryption, secure email, uh, cloud security, file transfer, data transfer. There's a whole lot of places, cryptocurrency, where encryption can be used. So in summary, we have been able to cover the basics of data protection, encryption methods, and common use cases. So before you ask your question, let's quickly look at a few practical approach to it that we can look at very quickly. So let me reshare my screen, and so that we can see. We are going to do two things. I will do encoding conversion to any of the bases. So we are going to be using a tool called CyberChef. CyberChef is one of the encrypting tool you can use, and CyberChef is a course on its own. If you are going to be a security professional, because it's like a buy one get all. CyberChef is very very useful. You can buy one and get all on CyberChef. So let me display how CyberChef looks like. Uh, a moment. Okay, I have a file opened that I need to close. That's what I'm trying to do before I share my screen. All right, so here we go. So I'll be displaying CyberChef. Kindly let me know when you can see my full screen now. Can you see my full screen now, please? I need somebody to respond, please. I can't
Yes,
see.
sir.
Okay, okay. Because I can't see what you are typing, or what you are, if you are giving a thumbs up. So I need you to respond. Thank you. All right, so this is CyberChef. This is CyberChef, a tool that you can use for a whole lot of things, a million of things. All right, so I'll be picking a file. Let's see if I have a few articles here. Uh, I'm trying to find a particular file. Yeah. So let's look at this. Cloud security post. Okay. I think this one will benefit you more. Let's look at cryptography and quantum computing. Cryptography and quantum computing. Now, you see, this is a very good article you can read, because I know I just mentioned quantum computing today. Many of you are finding it difficult to understand it. So this article, I don't know if it is published yet, but maybe I'll publish it later. So if you are on LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You get the link there. All right, but let's copy a part of cryptography and quantum computing. So we want to copy this. Okay. Then we go to CyberChef. Now, what we want to do, the first thing I want to show you is encoding. Encoding. And what encoding means is that you are converting to another format. So, for example, I'm going to pick base 64. So this is the way CyberChef works. This is the place for operation. You can see operation here. You can see recipe. Now, recipe is just like, the place where you put what you want, the kind of operation, the place where you cook. Yeah, that's the word. You can see that beneath here you have bake. You have bake. So this is where you cook. Now, this is recipe. This is input, is where you put in what you want to encode, and output is where you get your encoded format. So let's base 64 is what we want to convert to base 64. So you drag it and put it on your recipe. Put it on your recipe. Then what file do you want to encrypt? What document? What I just copied now. Can you see? Cryptography and quantum computing, a threat to modern encryption. This is what I just taught you now. Cryptography and quantum computing, a threat to modern encryption. So I want to send this file to you as my student, but I want to send it encoded. So like I will encode it to base. I will convert it to base 64. When you were in secondary school, they only taught you how to convert numbers to base 8, base 10, base 2, base 3. But here we are converting letters. And if you did computer science in school, they really must have taught you how to convert to base 64 and the likes. You understand? If you attend our class, I will teach you how to convert manually to base 64. So let's bake. We are converting to base 64. So we bake. Now, we have a base 64. So quantum, we'll save it, quantum.txt. We'll click OK. Downloaded. Can you see that? So automatically under my download, let's see. If I go under my download, can you see? So the same document, the same file that contains quantum computing and cryptography, that English word has been encoded now. So if I send this to you and I tell you that's the assignment is in base 64, you are now left with how to convert it back to what? To normal text. That's encoding. All you just need is for me to tell you that it is base 64. Do you understand now? That is encoding. So there is every likelihood that this week assignment will come like this, and you will have to convert it back to text. So now we already converted it to base 64. Let's clear it. I can make it more complicated by bringing that same text. I'll copy all. Are we together now? I'll copy all. Then I want to make it more complicated now. Then I pick to base 92 here. Then I paste what I copied and I bake. Are we together now? Are we still together? All right. Then I'll save. Quantum base. I'm using base 92 so that we will not mix the files together. Base 92.txt. Okay. Let's open our download files. So we have now this is quantum base 92. Can you see that this one look more jargon than the other one? If you place them side by side, this base 92 looks more jargon. It really doesn't make sense. So for a layman, if you post this on your, just pick this and put it on your status, nobody will understand except somebody that is familiar with cybersecurity and say, this thing looks like base 92. Is it base 92? And you know, yes, it's base 92. The person will now pick it and throw it inside a tool like Cyberchef. There are many other tools that you can use. You can Google that. There are many other tools you can use to do this conversion. So you have encoded that file. If we pick this particular file now, Control A, Control C, then we come to Cyberchef again. You remember that it was from to base 92. So we pick from base 92. Then we paste. Then what base do we want to convert to now? What base should we convert to? We want to return it to base. What base did we convert it from? Base 64. We want to return it to base 64. To base 64. Let's bake. Can you see? Now, let's do a quick comparison. Let me split my screen. Text file. Oh, my text file is not currently displayed. Okay, yeah, it's displayed now. Yeah, all right. So we want to do a bit of comparison. Look at what we have here now and what we have here. We converted from 92 to, we converted from simple text to base 64. And from base 64, we converted back to what? To base 92. Now we are converting back from base 92 to base 64. Do we have the same output? How will you know? Look at the first letters. This one starts with UTFKW. This one starts with Q1J, ZU, FR, whatever. Now, this tells you that this encoding has become very complicated. Very complicated. Now, moving forward, we are going somewhere. So let's clear this. We clear this too from base 92. Okay, from base, no, this is base 64. From base 92, yeah. Then we paste that initial jargon that we have. Can you see now? If you convert it back, I mean, if you look at your, I'm trying to split my screen so that you will see the two. Can you see? Can you see that what we converted to base 92 is what we have now in base 64 again? This is our base 64 that we converted to 92. Can you see? Q1, JZU, FR, PR1, JBU, EH. So it's the same thing. So we have literally converted it back to what? To base 64, where it was converted from. We will now pick this base 64. We pick this base 64, we copy it, we clear this, then from base 64, we put it here, then we paste. Then what's the next thing we do? we bake. Can you see that we are back to our English? So I've taken you through the process of this is basic encoding. As complicated as this one looks, is the smallest part of encoding. It can really, really get more complicated. Are we together now? So we have really done encoding now. We have encoded and decoded. It's quickly, easily done. Now let's go to encryption. Encryption. A moment. Yes. So we clear this. We clear this. Now we are going to be using PGP. PGP is a kind of algorithm. So the first thing you are going to do is you are going to generate key pair. You remember we want to use asymmetric now. So you are going to be needing two keys. Don't forget, you are going to be needing two keys, and it's going to be a public key and a private key. So you generate, you bring this, you drag it here, you generate password, name, email. For more security, you can also add those ones. But because of this class, we need to rush. So we will not be generating, we will not be adding those ones. So we want to generate our pair of key, you bake. It's already baking. This is pair one, my own pair of key now. Can you see it? Okay, let's save it with instructor keys .txt. We download that. Okay, because it's going to be between two recipients now. Two individuals or two users, user A and user B. So instructor is the user A and the user A. So let's say one of you is the user B. So I will do that on your behalf. Now we'll generate your own pair of key too. Okay. So let's make sure you always delete everything here and delete this one now. So we generate again. We want to generate another one, another pair of key now. Okay. All right. So we have the second pair of key. We save that. Student key .txt. Let's save that. Good. So we have two pairs of key now. Now, remember that I said if you want to encrypt, you will use, so you want to encrypt, you want to send the file as a student. As a student, you want to send the file to your lecturer, to your instructor as a student. Now, if you want to send the file to me, what key are you going to be using? Anybody? I am the one receiving the file. So what key will you use to encrypt? Yes, do we have anybody that want to speak? Okay, Ajayi Gideon, please speak.
Public key, sir.
Whose public key? We have two pairs of key now. Is it the instructor's own or the student's own?
My own.
You are the student.
I want to send the file to you.
You are the one sending to me. We have your key, public and private key now. And instructor also has public and private key. Which key will you use to encrypt?
That will be my own public key.
How? Or do we have anybody that want to explain? Hello, are we together? Okay, Remilekun, please go ahead. Remilekun, please go ahead. Your hand is up. All right. So because our time is really, really fast spent, you are going to be using the public key of the recipient. That was what I told you. The public key of the recipient. The public key of the recipient. So let me just close all my folders here. Let's close this. This quantum base. Let's close it. And this quantum, we close it. So we are going to be using the public key of the recipient. The person has the private key with him. So you'll be using his public key that you have access to. So quickly, let's see. We have PGP encrypt. You put it here. You can see what it's requesting for. Can you still see my screen, please?
Yes, sir.
You can see it's requesting. You want to encrypt. It's requesting for what? Public key of
Public key.
recipient. So you encrypt with public key of recipient. What do we want to encrypt? The same text that we pasted the other time. Let's see. Yes, this is the text. This is what we want to encrypt. We'll now go and copy the public key of the instructor key. Now this is it. We open it. Okay. We have two keys. You can see begin PGP private key block. The one at the top is the private key. Then we scroll down. You can see end PGP private key block. So the private key is at the top. So what we need is what? The public key. So in every encryption, the one below, which is public key, is the one that you are going to make available to anybody that want to send anything to you. You see this one, you must keep it confidential, because without it is this one at the top that you can use to decrypt. All right. And they must not steal it from you. That's the problem. It must not be stolen from you. All right. So we want to copy the public key of the instructor. We copy it. We bring it here. We paste. Okay. It must be green. If it's pointing red, something is wrong. For example, if I put sorry, back. Okay, no need. Don't let me tamper with it. So we have the public key here. We want to encrypt. So let's bake. It's pointing red. Could not import public key error. No header. So we did not copy it completely. So we delete it. PGP encrypt. So we did not copy the complete. Can you see? It must be complete. It must be complete. You bring it here back. Okay. Let's bake. Now we are baking. We are already encrypting now. Can you see what we have here now? This file, you see this thing this cryptography, whatever, this is an encrypted version of it. Now, quantum encrypt dot txt. We save it. Now, clear all. You see what we just did now? Except if you are using sophisticated tools that like quantum computing to breach it, and it's going to be a breach. It's not going to be legal. Nobody can decrypt that thing except for the person that has that private key of the instructor. Are we together now? Nobody. Nobody. For example, let's decrypt. PGP decrypt. Look at what it's requesting for. Private key of recipient. Meaning that when that file gets to me, because you encrypted it with my public key, I will decrypt it with my private key. Are we together now? I will decrypt it with my private key. So let's now assume I decide to be over smart. I now pick the I now go ahead and open student key. Instead of me to pick the private key of the instructor, let's say I now assume to try another private key. Here, let's see, copy. Then I put private key of the instructor. Don't worry about this because we did not set any password. So we don't need a private key passphrase. Now, let's go and pick our file that has been encrypted. Encrypt, Quantum encrypt. Yeah. Control A, Control C. Then we come here. We want to decrypt it now. Bake. Let's read the error together. Could not decrypt message with provided private key. Error. What's the error? Key not found. Because only the private key of the public key that was used to encrypt it can decrypt it. Is that correct? Let's look at it. Let's decrypt again. Let's now put the private key of the instructor. I think I should have the file of the instructor. Yes, instructor key. Let's copy the instructor's private key here. Can you see? I've copied the instructor private key. Copy. Let's paste. Now we have put in the private key of the instructor because the key that was used to encrypt that file. You can see that this is an encrypted file. This file. So the key that was used to encrypt it is what we are using to, the private key is what we are now applying now. So let's bake. Can you see that it has been decrypted? So this is how encryption and decryption works. So you lose the private key, forget about it. Don't even think about it at all. Don't even think about it at all. So that is why nobody must have access to that private key except you. Your public key will be available to anybody that wants to send anything to you. You send it to them. You don't even need to secure it. Just send it. Under symmetry, you will need to be securing the key because the key that can encrypt can decrypt. Like if it's instead of this PGP, if we go to AES now, the same key that we used to when we generate it, the same key that we used to encrypt it is the same key we use to do what? To decrypt it. But under this place, and that's why this one is very, very secure. I have the private key. As an instructor now, if I send you, what I can only send you is my public key. I'll send it to you. And I'll tell you, send me a message or if I say send me your matric number using my public key, encrypted with my public key, it's only me that can decrypt it. You know the funniest part? After you have encrypted it with my public key, even you cannot decrypt it. So if you lose the original file, forget about it. Unless you reach out to me. Is that clear? Now I've shown you decoding and encoding, encrypting and decrypting. For those of you that will be registering, you will learn more. I said it before we began this bootcamp. You will eat good, and I believe you are eating good. So that is that about that for today. Yes, any question, please? Yes, it's time for question and answer, please. Any question? Oh, someone is raising the hand. Adebajo, are you still raising your hand or is it a mistake?
It's a mistake, sir.
All right. Yes, anybody, please. You have any question? You have what you want to ask? You have something that is not clear so that we can quickly clarify that. All right. So since there are no questions from any quarters, so that will be the end of today's class. Thank you for joining. And okay, someone is trying to please. The screen cannot be properly seen. When I already closed my screen. So if you are talking about now, the screen is already closed. I'm not displaying anything currently. All right. So thank you for joining today's class. And I can see one hand, please. Adekunle. Yes, Adekunle, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is just how does a public key execution enable secure communication over on insecure channel?
Sorry, please come again and please speak louder. I'm finding it difficult to hear you.
How, how does public key execution
Adekunle, you are off. We can't hear you, please.
enable
Someone is. You said what?
how does public key execution enable secure communication over on insecure channel?
How does public key encryption? Is that what you asked? Please communicate. Is that what you asked? How does public key encryption?
Execution enable secure communication over on insecure channel.
Now, there is nothing like public key encryption. We have two types of encryption: symmetric,
Okay.
asymmetric. Symmetric uses
Okay, sir.
one secret key. It's called secret key. While asymmetric uses pair of key, public and private. So a public key cannot work alone. It must work with a corresponding private key. So that when you encrypt, you decrypt. Do you understand now? Now, if you are talking about
Yes, sir.
secret key, talking of the symmetric encryption now. Now, the way it ensures secure communication over unsecure channel is that it keeps the data inaccessible. It keeps your communication inaccessible. Unauthorized persons cannot have access to that data. Even though they have access to it, they cannot read it. And because they cannot read it, they cannot alter it. Like the example I just gave you now, anybody can have access to that encrypted file, but only me that has the private key will be able to do what? To decrypt it. Do you understand now? And in
Yes, sir.
symmetric, because you use only one key, you make sure that the secret key, that only single key that you use to encrypt, you send it over a secure channel, and that is where your PKI, public key infrastructure, comes in place. Because if your key is compromised, your data is already compromised. It's just like you lose your key to an armed robber, forget it, he will visit you anytime. That's just how it works. Do you understand now?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Now
Thank you,
somebody
sir.
is asking if this class can be revisited. Of course, it will be uploaded on YouTube. You can go on our YouTube page and read it. But for us to revisit it in this bootcamp, no, it's not going to happen. We have a whole lot of things we want to cover. We have just 3 classes left. Next tomorrow's class, then next week we have 2 classes. That's all. You understand? So it's a boot camp, and it's a free boot camp. We really okay. You mean the YouTube link? Yes, you are going to have access to it. Once it is uploaded, you'll be updated in the group, on the general group. I believe you're on the general group, so you'll be updated. Do you understand me now? So that's just that about that. Thank you, everyone, and I believe the class has officially now come to an end.